when they were playing on the like the mod to practice. He was feeling very good. He got knocked out in a very rough group in Home Story Cup. So let's see how it's gonna go. So kick things off.
Here we go on to Catalyst for map number 1 of this best of 5. Up in the top left, this is the Zerg from Finland. In the blue, it is Serral.
And of course, he is up against the Red Terran player from the Netherlands to the bottom right-hand side from Team Liquid, uThermal. It is an interesting map to start out on because it's quite a short map, this one, in terms of base to base, and obviously that makes any sort of push very interesting. And one thing that I've never really thought about on this map until I was discussing with Muslim the other day about his vetoes, the third base on this map is kind of out there and open, like compared to kind of like, it's not like super far from the natural, but it's got this kind of little bit of a hump in between, and it is kind of difficult to get over here. Even if it is a choke on the left side, it can mean that pushes can hit your third quite quick, and that can make it a bit more difficult to defend. So we'll see how this is going to go. As Serral, a very stylistic and typical pool first from him. He plays this a lot. Get the 2 lings across. It isn't that much worse than a hatch first economy. In an economy sense, he can follow this up with cheese as well. And I know he was actually talking to Special a little bit in the games he's playing. And Special's like, "Are you going to cheese 1 game?" And Serral says, "Yes, I think I am 1 game at least." Special's like, "Good. I think it's very good because Terran sucks."
You're getting all like the inside information.
I've been on spying, man. So clever in the cast.
Just been sitting in the background listening to Serral, talking to Special and all the other guys. And it's really interesting to me that he shows so much confidence. For Serral, I don't think he's really a guy to talk too much, like talk trash, or he usually stays generally quiet. He shows how good he is with his play rather than his words. So the fact that he's like, yeah, I mean, this is going to be easy, the fact that he's not even talking about uThermal could be a bit of a mistake. I want to see some Serral cheese. That would be nice. I haven't tried any Finnish cheese myself. I'm sure it's fantastic. Might get a little taste today, as uThermal is going to come in here with this first SCV, get a good scout on the timing of everything that's going on in the Zerg base, and has some information now. Is that SCV going to die? It looks like it.
Yeah, this SCV shouldn't get out alive. I'm surprised he went all the way into the main base. I guess just trying to see if there's a faster roach run coming down already based on the fact that it was pool hatch. But this was obviously a gas. A little bit later on, actually, it wasn't like gas pool hatch. It was like pool hatch gas, I believe. So a little bit later. The important thing for uThermal is he can keep the Reaper at home. Knowing that it was pool first, he knows those 2 lings are likely to be out on the map. And Serral, he hasn't seen the Reaper moving across the map with the Overlord, so what he does is he actually keeps the lings out in the corner. So a lot of kind of little things just coming out of that 1 single SCV scout so far. As now uThermal with his next Hellions and his Marine on the way up, he feels good to move out, which sends the lings in. Yeah. But then the units are there to defend anyways.
The Reaper goes out, the lings come in. You can explain it this time. It makes a lot of sense. The Overlord, just the overseeing eye of everything, are going to run into a couple of Hellions, trying to be a little bit tricky there before speed is done, though. They will not survive. Reaper comes over here, scouts the third base. We got more Hellions on the way. Is going to go up to that nice harassment force that you see a lot of Terrans start off with, especially uThermal. Loves to commit to a bunch of Hellions, try to drop them in, run them in, whatever you want to do, and then usually goes into Banshees afterwards. Looks like he wants to do the drop into Banshee style in game number 1 against Serral.
Yeah, the medevac coming out here. I'm sort of surprised we don't see the armory started already, but it feels as though it should be something coming soon with this many Hellions and a medevac. Unless he really just wants to drop those Hellions in and run them around. So obviously a fairly decent possibilities. We see the 1 Marine going to hunt down this Overlord, but the Overlord gets the information of the Cloaked Banshee. Just means that Serral will have enough spores in position. Queen's kept at home, ready to respond to this. That Overlord gets popped, and well, Hellions moving around the map. It is just going to be, again, that Hellion drop run by sort of style here to start things off for uThermal. Looking for some early damage, and that's what a lot of Terran players look for right now with the mech play even. And it's why mech's so good, because you've got so many ways to be aggressive and to slow the Zerg down, attack the Zerg, keep the Zerg busy, harass them throughout the game. It just lets you sort of then build up that kind of scary army. As well as all of that, it becomes very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, so here we go, the 4 Hellions into the main. You can see Serral is being very patient with this. Eventually tries to jump on it. A couple of lings do get roasted, but he's not trying to kill Serral here. Of course, he's just trying to poke a little bit, take some of the attention away as the first Banshee does go out on the map there on the right side. And we'll see how Serral does respond to all this. Of course, uThermal gets a ton of map control, so he can easily just plop down the third base on location, and he is going to be catching up to Serral in that economy-wise. Also has his 2 armories on the way, and here we go. We're going to have that drop once again, although he is going back home. I guess he saw the roaches and wants to be careful.
I think he just wants to be a little bit safe. Maybe reposition on the other side of the map, because he wasn't getting much done in the main because Serral knew about it, obviously. So coming around the other side, maybe just want to go for some creep spread, for example. Get a couple tumors would be nice as well. It would be great if you could get this active one while it's trying to go forwards, but I guess he's probably going to think of scanning anyways unless units come in. Just moving around, seeing what opportunities there are as the Banshee goes into the natural, now the main. No real kills on it, one single one. It's going to pick up a Zergling as well, perhaps. Nope, not quite. All right, then. Well, we just continue through. I mean, Lair on the way up here from Serral as a couple of Hellions poke to the right-hand side, and well, very passive considering we've had all of these different units to try and do something with, but both players just kind of clashing horns and not really finding a fatal strike yet.
Yeah, we've seen uThermal get a lot more damage with this in the past, but Serral seems pretty airtight on the defense right now. Basically no damage at all. You know, a couple lings here or there, and that's going to be fine. So he has regained a bit of map control with those lings pushing across, drops down his own 4th base. And of course, as it is no surprise to anybody, we will be seeing mech from uThermal. More factories on the way. The armories were already created. He didn't start any upgrades, but as I say that, he puts them right down.
He hurt you, man. He heard how disappointed you were that he didn't have them.
I know. Those are up for like 20 seconds.
No, they were. They were actually up for a while without the upgrade coming through. You can see the factories, the extra ones coming down onto Tech Labs. There should be 4s to begin with. 2 4s, the double medevac will follow it up. Very common way to open. Again, I just talked about being aggressive with mech, and the double 4 drop allows you to keep on being aggressive. You can set up into kind of like a Hellbat 4 push as well, which can do quite a bit of damage sometimes, especially in uThermal's position here, where, okay, he didn't do any damage to slow Serral down, apart from a couple Banshees, but he hasn't taken any damage himself. So that sort of push, it forces units, it keeps Serral in check. As Hellions running into roaches, well, that's never a great trade, but he doesn't lose anything. So as he was going down to a little bit of a ling run by, though, sorry, what's that in the min? Just an overseer. It's just the lings at the third base that are picking off a few SCVs. Again, it's nothing too substantial just yet.
Yeah, 5 OCVs for a small little run by is not bad. He is going to identify these 2 Thors popping out, and this looks like the most standard, straightforward TVZ mech style that we've been seeing all the time. It's just like uThermal has this build down to a T. He tries to get damage early, but then he follows up with the same exact thing, and it's going to be interesting to see what Serral does on the other side to deal with this, because he already took that 4th base. No 5th base yet. I think he wants to deal with this drop first. He is making a bunch of Hydras right now to deal with this. He already did scout it with the Overseer, but he does get an Infestation Pit pretty fast. Perhaps wants to go up to a faster Hive in this game.
Yeah, fast Hive, get in towards that sort of tech that can just help you, especially if you're going to be playing kind of a Hydra-based force here. You know, just getting towards a few Vipers especially is so useful against the mech players, and, you know, then you get the possibility of adding in towards the Broodlords as well, so lots of options as you film up the left-hand side of the 4s. The Hellions are not going to come along with this or anything. You know, a couple of Cyclones actually defending against some Roaches back on this third base. As there we go, those 2 4s in towards the main, and, well, I mean, they're going to get a good amount of damage. In fact, they're going to pick the Queen off very quickly there, and this Overlord as well going to do take quite a bit of damage. So that goes down as well. And as you just see, those 4s will sit around, and obviously the medevacs want to boost in and try and get them out of there when needed. A lot more units coming in was a good time to pick up. He got a couple Hydras. This was nice damage, and again, it forces Serral to stay at home. It stops him from being overly aggressive. Meanwhile, Hellions on the right side still being defended, though. Serral's not just going to let one single attack in his main base distract him from other threats on the map.
Yeah. This is a good start to the series. I like that it's very tense, you know, not a lot of damage back and forth. It's going up into the macro style that we were expecting out of these two already in game number 1. And, I mean, here we go. uThermal is putting down his 4th base already. Going to try to make that into a planetary. Generally the main focus for the mech players. Sometimes Zergs try to hit a timing. They try to get on top of the mech player before they really build up and max out on that mech style and that mech composition. But Serral is not really that type of player, at least not in this game. Seems like he's kind of just playing the catcher game, you know, the baseball catcher, where you sit back, you just try to defend everything, do like a tiny bit of harass, but really you're just trying to take up as fast as possible, take as many bases as possible, and prepare for that very late game.
Yeah, already 5 Vipers on the way up as Serral's starting to push on the 4th base to the left side here. Now, the Vipers aren't ready just yet, of course, as there are indeed tanks set up and ready to go. And Yeah, I feel uThermal has plenty to defend this base, and that's why Serral does find himself back in the way. Again, it's another 5 workers he manages to pick off throughout this, but, you know, at this point, uThermal's getting stronger and stronger. The tank count is rising, and Serral has to be careful. Again, it's going to be a very easy push up through the center for uThermal from here to the 5th base of the Zerg. So that's something Serral has to be very cautious of. One thing for uThermal, I guess I would say, is that there is a lot of creep that he has to deal with on the map. If he wants to push anywhere, he will be pushing through creep. Serral is so quick at spreading this. Once he gets going, he just does not stop. And of course, that can be a major issue, because it means that uThermal, you know, throughout the weekend, we've been seeing him against Raynor, especially it comes to mind, all of those Hellion run-bys that kept Raynor's economy so low, stopped him from just being able to reproduce endlessly. That's not going to be very viable when there's this much creep covering all those pathways.
Yeah. It's always a treat to sit behind Serral and watch him play. Well, hold on, I thought we are going to have a couple of yanks here. Speaking of a couple, that's about 5 or 6. He tries to get on top of it, but uThermal's like, oh, hello, I'm totally fine to take this fight. Looks like a bunch of these units on the right side were not with the army. Coming in and swooping up a couple of tanks on the back foot means that the trade isn't as bad for Serral, but still, look at his confidence now as uThermal pushes through the middle. He doesn't want to give time to Serral to remake any of his units. He wants to pounce on this hatchery right away.
He realizes as well that the Vipers are going to be low on energy, so this is a great chance for him to move up the map. The trade was good because, as you said, those units were out of position on the right side, and even if they picked up a couple of tanks after, there was already a lot lost here, as now uThermal in position, and this 5th base is starting to fall. He is right up here in the center, and once a mech player gets into this sort of position, as some Yanks come down once again, but Vipers are being shot down too by those Vikings. Once the Terran is in this position, it's very difficult to break, especially on this map where it's one of the maps where mech can sort of rally like Bio likes to rally. Just keep on reinforcing a couple more tanks at a time. And I mean, uThermal, you can see he is not stopping. Serral has flicked the switch on, and uThermal is going to keep it there. As we see, nice blending clouds on a couple of tanks, but not all of them, as this is Serral's opportunity to fight, but it's not going super well to the top. At least he's got a large army to the south.
Yeah, the south fight is where he is having the most success, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough success as the rest of Serral's army does go down. Man, pushing up right through the middle as the meching player just looks so strong. G.
$1,000. It goes up from $1,500 to $2,500. But one of the bigger things, obviously, is the fact that the prize pool really starts to rise from there. It goes to $4,500 for third place, I believe, to $9,000 for second, $18,000 for first. So a lot of money on the line, and obviously the last thing you want is to be missing out. As well, that is one heck of a way to open on Abyssal Reef.
Yep. Talking about this opening, we will after we introduce the players. Down in the bottom right, this is the Finnish Zerg. He's got to come back after that first loss. This is Serral.
Yeah, I just can't quite believe it. As to the top left-hand side, the blue Terran player from Team Liquid. Oh, he is actually going CC first. This is insane.
Wow.
It's uThermal.
So, for me, I was like, is he really that tilted? Like, is he just going to go off, you know, because this was his first map pick, right? And generally, Abyssal Reef, we see a lot of mech on this map, but we also see that Zergs can really take over on this map if they identify that the Terran is going mech early on and just, like, flood the map with bases and get your creep really far out there. It's one of the better maps for Zergs who like to play those long games against mech. But Serral's like, nah, not really feeling it. And I don't know if this is a response to the game one or if this was a planned build from the start, one of those cheeses you were talking about, perhaps.
I think it probably is kind of planned because it is a good map to do this on. And what's interesting, Rotterdam just told me that uThermal has like a 20-1 win rate on ladder against Zerg. And the only map he lost was against Elaze's 12-pool Ravager build, which is exactly what we're starting to see here from Serral. It starts with a 12-pool, you take double gas, obviously you put the Rotron down, but the double gas allows you to get a lot of Ravagers on the map because, well, that's what's very powerful at this very early stage. A CC first from uThermal, I'm not really sure. I mean, CC first isn't super normal from Terran players nowadays, so I'm not really sure how exactly it pans out, but generally you'd expect it to be a little bit worse because obviously you're expanding early and making yourself more vulnerable, but sometimes it can work the other way around where because you get the CC so quick, the rest of the stuff kind of comes up. I don't think that's going to be the case here though, but he does get double gas a little bit faster, so the factory's not going to be super late, and that's what he needs here. He needs a factory, but really, he needs a scout, and it's, I think, the one time where uThermal doesn't bother with the SUV scout.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate for him in this game. Could turn out to be his losing mistake as the Ravagers already making their way across the map. He's going to see these first two lanes and he's going to be like, hey, that's a little bit early. And this Reaper is the first unit out. Going to deal with the Lings early on, which is decent. But once he sees those Ravagers, we'll see how he does deal with them. Here we go. A couple of Ravagers on the ramp.
I think uThermal might just instantly GG to some extent. He doesn't have a single unit out right now. I mean, the factory is coming up as a reactor build, and he's going to pull SCVs, but...
If you surround them, I guess maybe?
I mean, sure, but, like, he's going to lose so many. Ravagers, like, one-shot, like, 3 Ravagers one-shot the SCVs, so they just dodge and dive, and you can just see SCV after SCV right here. The Reaper is trying to put some extra damage out. 1 Cyclone starts to build, now 2 Marines in the production tab. The reactor's going to go down, though, with those barrels, another depot as well, and I think even if you get a Cyclone out here, it kind of hurts, yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that's just GG. We had the corrosive biles coming down.
Great game.
He is going to get the surround on the ramp, but
there's
honestly,
still no
it doesn't
units,
really
right?
matter.
Like, there's just no real damage output. Serral's like, oh, you need some damage? Here you go. I'll borrow one of my own Ravagers. That might help you. I mean, it's just, you just can't hold this, I don't think, with the CC first. Like I say, like, the factory comes out that little bit later on. Yeah, it's just a real shame, kind of, in terms of choice ability from uThermal, really. I mean, he still has 2 CC against 1. Now he's got a Cyclone out. It gets a little bit better. Obviously, 2 CCs against 1 hatch. Maybe you can sustain it, and you do have double mule to help out. I guess he's going to get a second Cyclone, but now he's missing a barracks as well, so that's something he has to rebuild. Cyclone will begin to commit. I mean, he really needs a second one, because the problem is 1 Cyclone just gets targeted so quickly. SCV is dropping again, and as uThermal falls below 10 supply in the next couple of moments, I think that really is going to be the end here.
Yep, can't even repair at this point. Is going to take out 1 Cyclone. There's the second. GG is called, and Serral, looks like the Zergs have been sharing some builds.
This one should last a little bit, hopefully. And I mean, even like considering the first game, obviously that one lasted just a little bit. But it wasn't really like a long mech game. You know, it was really one attack that then just turned into a counter that just kept going for a minute or so, and that was it. So we'll see what happens. We're jumping into it to the bottom right-hand side of Neon Violet Square. It's our blue Terran player from the Netherlands, uThermal.
And his opponent up in the top left, the Zerg player with a quick build in game number 2. It is Serral.
Yeah, I wonder what Serral goes for this time around. I mean, probably back to the macro, but I wonder if he plays the same sort of style where he rushed a hive and got like 5 Vipers out. I've been seeing him play a couple of different things in those practice games with Special. I'll bring up again, he was playing some Swarm Host styles. He was playing some styles where he's playing kind of Hydra Ling Bane against the mech. You know, and that one was the Roach Hydra back in that game number 1, so that was Roach Hydra Viper. That didn't work out, so maybe he tries out one of his different styles here this time around to... It's kind of interesting because, you know, in the past against mech, there was never really choices. There was always like, oh, well, this is just what you do, and it's sort of one of the things that made the mech games kind of... Mech versus like very repetitive and very, you know, every game was very similar. You knew what to expect. And nowadays, you kind of know what to expect from the Terran and as an overall game plan, but there's lots of ways for the Terran to get there, and there's so many ways for the Zerg to respond to.
Yeah, Serral on this map did go for a Nidus against Showtime. Obviously, is a different matchup here, TVP compared to, or rather ZVP compared to ZVT, but
Nidus is pretty good on this map in this matchup too.
It's just a really nice map to do it because you have that whole backdoor base, which generally isn't taken too early. So if you can sneak some vision back there, you can get your units all the way into the back of the opponent's base and get on top of those tanks. So we'll see if he does want to go for that kind of style or if he is going to just you know, go into that more standard macro style that he's more used to and comfortable with.
Hatchery first here, sorry, not Hatchery first, Pool first here again from Serral, allows him to get these 2 Lings on the map. uThermal is once again going to be having just a Marine at home this time around. The Reaper has gone across. It's because he did an SCV scout. He'll see the Queen out, and so he instantly brings the Reaper back. So what he does is he basically builds the Marine after the Reaper, which is something you don't always do, but he does it here because he did an SCV scout. So he just wants something against those Lings, and, well, he will be able to start trading with them. And you can see already, like, the SCV didn't have to pull away from the command center just yet. It pulls away now, but a lot less kind of build time lost than you'd usually have if the Reaper was all the way on the wrong side.
Quick third base coming up here from Serral. You see this often when you do go for that pool first. You just get the first Queen out, and then you just get a couple of bases very quickly. And that is what he's going to go for. uThermal looking to put down that starport already, as well as a tech lab. So looking as if he does want to go into that Banshee style. Serral is going to see it all right in front of his own eyes. Doesn't go for the pneumatized carapace in any of these games. Just using that upgraded, or rather buffed, I should say, Overlord speed.
Yeah, no pneumatized carapace. I guess because he's just fairly confident about what uThermal is going to do in terms of playing mech, and I think, you know, well, okay, this is one of those games where you should get the Overlord speed. Like, it would be so useful. Like, this is not something you just sort of like, yeah, this is going to come. Going to be the fusion core right away, and with the fusion core this quickly, man, like, the idea is obviously ranged liberators, the advanced ballistics upgrade. This was a real thing, kind of the start of Legacy of the Void. Now, most maps don't have super abusable positions anymore, but out on this base over here, there is a liberator position that cannot be reached by queens. And so, this is going to be really, really tough to deal with. And, well, I don't actually know what Serral might do about it, because he just won't know for so long. I mean, the lair's coming up, so he could build a Spire, but that'd be a weird choice in terms of how uThermal usually plays.
Yeah, advanced ballistics already started, as well as that first liberator on the map, and a Viking was made first just to make sure that he could not scout it. Took out that first Overlord, and is now out on the map hunting for other Overlords. And you can see that means Serral pulls everything back. He's going to have no chance of scouting this, and he's just going to have to react on the fly. And as you mentioned, you know, it's going to take a while for the lair to finish, to get a Spire. Even if he knew perfectly what this was, he would need to go down that tech path pretty soon after the lair comes down. So kind of worried for Serral at his third base.
There's no way he builds a Spire right now. Like, it just isn't good in the matchup, in the meta game, in terms of what uThermal plays. So, I mean, the lair will be for, you know, Bane Speed and the Hydra Den. Probably looking to play like Ling Bane Hydra this game, rather than, again, that Roach Hydra style. I mean, there's the Hydra Den coming on into play, as we see some Hellions going to look to poke and prod. I mean, everything uThermal does so far makes it look kind of normal. The only thing I would say is that obviously Serral hasn't seen much else apart from a few Hellions, so maybe he questions that. But, you know, I mean, I guess he's seen a Viking. I guess he may start asking, well, where's the Banshee? Where's the maybe the Medevac or something? But I mean, he sees the Viking still, so you still realize there's something off the starport. Just does he realize that the Liberator's out, and that's what he hasn't seen so far. So there's the first Liberator going to siege up. Liberange has just finished, and that Spore Crawler is not going to help you enough here, Serral.
What is he really going to do? I mean, he can get a Queen at this location on the right side, but of course, uThermal just trying to deny as much mining time for a while before he does unsiege that. And really, it is going to be about that third base location. Look at what he's doing, too. The Queen is off creep. That might actually die.
Oh, it
One
just
more hit
gets
away.
onto the corner of the creep in time to speed past there. As you're going to see, Hellion also on the left side getting cleaned up. It's now a second Liberator. I love teaming them together because now it means he can advance forwards in a way where the Queen will not have coverage to actually protect us. He's actually going to set up double Liberator here. He's going to be able to not quite get the first Queen just yet. The second Liberator is not actually fine just yet. Yeah, this is kind of weird.
He misplaced that one.
Yeah, I think
if they were layered, then he probably could have taken out 2, even 3 Queens, because the other one was just simply not firing. A bit of a mistake there by uThermal. This is the crux of his build. He definitely wanted to do more damage with his advanced ballistics Liberators than that.
I mean, you only made 2 Liberators as well, which I find kind of interesting for the whole commitment of a Fusion Core, Advanced Ballistics. I mean, Advanced Ballistics is not a cheap upgrade. 150, plus the Fusion Core is like another 100 gas along the road. Plus 2 libs. I mean, making a couple libs to harass is completely fine. Now, the one thing that I'll probably say here that might be very interesting is it's something that Special loves to do. He loves to play kind of like a mass Liberator style when playing against Zerg and playing his mech. And so that might be the way that uThermal approaches this now, that he already has Advanced Ballistics. And if that is going to be the way he plays, then that actually could help out a lot, having that already in the game when his first libs start to come up here. As Ling's trying to run by, some of them get into the natural, and a couple of Hellbats do come in to respond to this. Serral just doing some bits and pieces, poking around as the Hellbats in the middle of the map are actually just going to run back home as well.
Yeah. Gets the scout on the Fusion Core, so he knows where it is now. He would have liked to have that, a little bit later, but this is going to all be cleaned up. Gets a full scout of everything that's going on. Sees the composition, the Thors, and everything like that. Queen's very far out on the map. You were mentioning how Neon Violet Square is a really big map, so especially for Zergs, you want to get that creep spread thick and early, as far out on the map as possible, because it really will delay the mech push for a very long time if you can spread it, you know, even as far as the Terran's 4th base. But you can see uThermal already getting to work, trying to stop this creep spread.
We've seen him to the left-hand side as well. A couple of 4s dropped down and very narrowly picking off a Hydra there. One of the 4s actually fought a Creep Tumor instead. uThermal will just lift up back away. He does have boost on those medevacs. He needs to make sure he doesn't lose the force, because that would be deadly. Meanwhile, though, 10 workers going down over at the third base. A Ling run by yet again. I think a couple of Banes came in there too. And uThermal's economy this game has not been too hot, as Halbat's in the center have been cleaning up creep, etc. I mean, that's nice and all, but the fours don't seem to do a lot. And now a Baneling drop coming in from Serral as well towards the main base. And this pressure is starting to do quite a bit for him here, as uThermal isn't quite on that 70-ish work count he was on Catalyst. He's not feeling as comfortable as he was back then. And now we're going to be seeing those Banes do drop into the mineral lines. Another 4 workers killed. A couple of Lings that are left will not really be able to do too much more, but still doesn't even kill the Overlord. As Serral gets ready to attack at the front, uThermal is going to lose a built 4th CC, basically.
He's pulling them apart here, actually. He goes into the third base, takes out 10 SCVs, brings all the Thors and the tanks even back into the main to deal with 1 Baneling drop. Now the 4th has to be canceled. He's already getting to work on that supply depot wall. He's already done enough damage. He can actually just go home and be happy with this and start his own 5th base as he is doing. I mean, Serral is all over uThermal in game number 3 in a way that he wasn't in game number 1.
I mean, it started out with the fact that the Liberators from uThermal, they didn't do as much as they needed to do for that investment, and well, now uThermal's just been struggling. A couple of run-bys later as well, he lost a few more workers, which just didn't help, and now he's sat at barely 3 base economy. He just lost to basically finish 4th base, and everything is going south for him right now here in this 3rd game, as Lings, Hydras, all from Serral coming over to the right-hand side to see what he can get up to. Another scan comes down. We're going to be seeing this tank still firing away. A Morphin Baneling gets picked off here.
He's going to attack at the natural at the same time. Looks like those Lings get through. But look at this. The Lings in the front are going to deny those tanks from doing that critical damage on the Hydra spread. Look at that. He is so spread out. He's got way too much stuff. GG. Serral is going to take game number 3 and go ahead in this series. Started Battle on the Boardwalk is going to be my first time casting this map.
It's my 3rd.
Your 3rd?
Yeah, it's crazy.
How's it been going? Have you been enjoying it?
The games have been pretty quick. Or even when they weren't quick, one of them wasn't quick, but it was over at like 5 minutes anyways, So I like this map, though. I think it's interesting. It's a bit different. It plays out better than I thought it ever would.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this, guys. We're going to kickstart it to the top right-hand side of Battle on the Boardwalk. It's match point as he's looking for a semi-finals position. Can he make it there? From NC Esports from Finland, it's Serral.
And his opponent over on the top left side of Battle on the Boardwalk from the Netherlands, down a game currently, it is uThermal.
I feel like uThermal kind of likes this map as long as he doesn't die in the first couple of minutes. It's actually pretty good for mech. You start expanding downwards and you defend your bases pretty easily, and then all of a sudden you're split map, because how do you push through a choke point like this one here, or this choke point here is the next sort of pathway on the map, and then the biggest choke point on the map is this one, and that's the only other way you can attack through, really. So it kind of gets difficult, especially for the Zerg to move through and to engage, unless the Terran forces the issue, and then obviously the Terran generally is kind of dictating the pacing, and so it's nice for Terran, and they can slow push through those chokes as well, like leapfrog tanks. It can go pretty nicely.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this one is going to go down. Serral, not really known as being a super aggressive Zerg, although he did win a quick game with the Ravager rush that he did in game number 2. But I feel like he's kind of cooled off. He was frustrated from game 1. He had to throw some cheese out there, and it did work out for him. But let's see what he decides to do here. So far, it's been a pretty standard Serral opening. He's going to go for 6 Lings, though, as I do say that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the first time he went hatchery first as well, actually. So maybe a little bit different from games 1, 2, and 3, but not, again, like hatch first versus pool first is pretty minimal overall. Usually just the pool first gives you those couple of Lings earlier, and you'll see 6 Lings now do just come out in time to fight this Reaper, and the Reaper a little bit back and forth here as it looks to do some damage. So just going to be seeing this Reaper as poking and prodding, as we do see the hatchery coming up the third base as well for Serral now, getting set up.
I hope we are the only ones without sound.
Yeah, I was just doing that as well. I just double checked to just change the options. So we're a little bit soundless right now, but maybe that's something that's not a thing on stream. Maybe it needs to be fixed. If so, I'm sure someone will be there to fix it in just a moment.
Yeah, seems like you guys on stream are also missing the sound. Sorry about that, but we will try to get that figured out as soon as possible. And yeah, we are going to have Serral dropping down the third base. Just made extra couple of lings to deal with that Reaper. And so far, uThermal just going for some Hellions. Will he try to do any Hellbat play this time around? We haven't really seen him go for any kind of fast armory type of styles in the series so far.
Hey, we got sand back.
You got what?
Sand back.
Sand? Oh, sound.
Sand,
oh.
yeah. Not sand. There's some sand here on Battle on the Water, though.
Yeah.
I think it's sand, right? Like,
yeah, it
it's
looks
a
like
beachy
sand.
map, yeah.
It is the boardwalk, after all. Boardwalk is next to the beach.
It does make sense. All right, we're going to be seeing these couple of queens just out the front and obviously just setting up. And going to be seeing the cloak coming on up on the tech lab on the starport. So, I mean, again, a very uThermal-esque opening, I suppose, as we do see the link gets in and sees everything. I mean, obviously it wasn't a full wall, so uThermal's not that bothered about it. I love that it runs down to the bottom left, though, because it has such a little corner to hide in, and then it can come and just rescout a little bit later on, as we do see. There's Hellions just coming in towards the center. Rotron coming up as well.
It's pretty annoying that the link can just, like, fly through the base and see everything.
This Hellion knows it's here. uThermal is not going to let it get away, man. So he's going to pick that off. I mean, a nice little attention to detail. It's very easy when so much else is going on to just let like a single Zerg slip by and maybe not notice it or forget that it went there and that it wasn't cleaned up. And then again, I mean, it's not the biggest of issues, but it is information that Serral is picking up, you know, potentially at some point in this game that he wouldn't usually have. So nice to deny that, as we do see Hellions, a Viking coming across the map. Armories are not ready yet, so no Hellbats or anything. As we do see the first Banshee's about to pop out, and I'll become a little bit of something here sometime soon as well.
Yeah, uThermal able to get that third base up relatively quickly. Should be pretty happy about that. We do have a bunch of roaches popping out here. Let's see how far he wants to go with this production. Is making 5 more as I do speak. Definitely could get aggressive on this map. As we've been saying, it's very small. You can just run straight over there, try to hit the Terran before he has a high tank count while you have a bunch of roaches. Now, he's not overcommitting to only roaches. He is making a bunch of drones as well, trying to saturate that third base at the same time. But already with +1 range on the way, it looks like he will be committing to some kind of roach pressure eventually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the idea of the lair and the Evo chamber coming up means that he isn't going to want to fight before they come into play, like roach student +1 basically. But when that does come into play, he might get very aggressive indeed, because there's a lot of roaches already. Like, it's just I guess 11 roaches. It's not like too many, but against just a few Hellions, it's really not necessary to have more than the 6 or so. You're going to see a couple of queens just popping down some creep tumors. The Banshee will cloak and get one of the creep tumor kills. We'll get the second one as well here. Just nice to delay that creep. Basically 50 energy waste on those queens. And look at that, the Banshee out of there just in time before its cloak fades away. And uThermal is should be pretty happy with that. However, that Banshee low on health. Now Queen's running across the map with these roaches. You can see that Serral's completely planning to make this a big roach queen-based attack.
Yeah, just a couple of queens, but a couple of transfuses here and there definitely will help, and he needs them to deal with the Banshees that are still flying around in the sky. So here he comes with the attack. Those queens are a little bit far behind, and Serral is actually rethinking this attack right now. Just wants to try to kite as much as possible. Needs to wait for those queens to get across the map as well. You know, taking out those creep tumors was actually pretty big because it delays the potential for the queens to really get across there in due time.
Serral not going to overcommit to anything. 7 more drones on the way up and teching out of this with an infestation pit and a Hydra's den. But I think it's definitely fair to say he wanted to do something here early, because why else would you commit to pure roaches for so long? Well, in every other game he's played against mech so far this weekend has been based on Hydralisks and the lair coming up and going into Hydras, etc. So, yeah, I think he wanted to do something, but uThermal was just sort of set up nicely to defend, and he's realized that. And better to back away and to play from there than to throw roaches away and then try to, you know, play catch-up.
Yeah, Serral bringing this into a longer game, both of these players, I should say. Relatively passive play overall, outside of that one little attack Serral was planning. But yeah, he's going up to Hive. He's getting all of those upgrades. We have more and more factories on the way. uThermal just getting a little bit cheeky with one of these Thors. Yeah.
Nice little 4. Like, I mean, it's actually weird not the double 4 drop, but I guess something along the way just didn't quite go his way. Like, he missed the second 4. I really don't know, but just 1 4. I mean, obviously not as effective, but still does do a little bit of damage here and there. And uThermal just set himself up nicely as he continues to build on up with this Banshee to the south side. It's a really great way to keep track of units moving through here, but of course not if he gets caught by a queen or so. It's very low on health. I'd like to go back and just get repaired, just in case like 1 or 2 queens do come around. So you're going to see a scan and some fresh creep tumors getting cleaned out. Roaches arrive to shut this 4 down, but uThermal of course lift up, and that's the power of the 4 and Medivac combined.
Yeah, there's those 4 Vipers on the way you were talking about, and this is kind of the attack that he was setting up for in game number 1 as well. Of course, we didn't get there in the same way because he made a bunch of roaches earlier on, but let's see how this does go over at the 4th base. It looks like he is planning an attack. Even after the creep tumors were taken out, he immediately sent some more down. It is only that one straight path. So as long as uThermal is not set up, you know, in a concave around there, which would be pretty far away from his bases, I think Serral could definitely try to pounce on in there and deny a 4th base for as long as possible. He's already trying to harass a little bit through this boardwalk down in the bottom left.
Yeah, he took down the rocks here, and that's something you don't see a lot of the time on Battle on the Boardwalk. In fact, I think this is the first time I've seen the rocks killed and someone actually harassing in this sort of direction in a competitive pro match. So uThermal's going to have to deal with that in some way, as we do see the big attack to the south side. Vipers will be backing this up very shortly. Now uThermal, these are the sort of numbers that we saw in kind of game number 1. uThermal very close to maxing out at the same time as Serral. It's not like what we saw in game 2, where uThermal was just massively behind based on the openings of the game and harassment that had come on down. Is, well, here we go, the initial abduct, it's going to be coming in. So not going to be a big push forwards from Serral, just a couple of kind of bits and pieces being taken. As we do see Hellbat's dropping into the natural. Serral has to be careful of these. Does not want to lose too many drones, because if his economy gets shattered, then he cannot keep up with this Roach Hydra-based production.
Yeah, just a couple of Hellbats is going to bring back this entire army. Okay, looks like he has dealt with it, but still pulling back, and that means that once again uThermal going to go out into the middle of the map, tries to take them out. Where are those roaches going?
Yeah, well, they came back. They came back from the boardwalk, man,
yeah.
and they got gridded by the boardwalk was shut this time apparently, because uThermal is going to kill those roaches very quickly. A high penalty for trespassing on boardwalks, man. We're going to be seeing Serral tries to loop a few units around and just a bit of a better flank here, just as uThermal unsieges. So he isn't ready for this fight, and the tanks are very clumped up. Everything's very clumped up for those Vipers, just blind and clouded here. But uThermal obviously feels confident. He's going to drop Hellbats on top of those Hydras as well, and he's starting to kill quite a bit. Serral losing out on quite a few units. As you do see those Hydras and Roaches, though, going to get the brand new command center. Will he target it? No, he doesn't. He turns around. Now he wants to get it, but the SCVs have begun to repair, and Serral is just bleeding units.
Yeah, good save there by uThermal, but Serral is not yet done. He wants to get more and more pickoffs. He's going to take that Thor away. And he's always okay to fight as long as those tanks aren't sieged. uThermal essentially just A-moving across the middle of this map, kind of looking like game number 1 a little bit in the manner that he is attacking. And so here we go. We do have this 5th base up for Serral, and uThermal is getting that nice tank spread. I love the observing here, Wardy. You're getting a good look at everything. Here we go. More and more yanks onto everything. Nice little concave of Hydras to pick off even more tanks.
Yeah, the one thing I think that was an issue here for Serral was that all the Roaches died, and so all of a sudden these Hydras took way more damage off the Hellions than they usually would, because they're not used to being in the front lines. And that was one thing that definitely helped uThermal to push through here, is now he's going to unsiege, maybe just back away completely. No, he's just going to back off a little bit apparently, so still just holding this bottom side, and again, a map where you can kind of just rally out to this position and then keep on slowly pushing forwards. Well, here we go. Vipers are going to yank once more, but I mean, Vikings are doing damage. They're picking off Vipers, and again, the Roach Hydra takes a lot of volleys as it comes in there just to pick off a couple of tanks. Still like uThermal's position. He's going to again push a bit further forwards. Creep tumors are down, so this creep is slowly receding.
Yeah, I think there's that one creep tumor underneath.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic to take out, but he's just missed it a couple of times with the scan. Either way, he is going to be coming on in here, grabbing a couple of the Vikings already, but look at this base already eating damage, and there's not much that Serral can do to defend this. He is going to come in, though, now with the Blinding Cloud. Does have a nice little concave of these Hydras coming in, but a lot of those tanks in the back are still getting fantastic shots on this Hydra line, and everything is going to be taken out. GG is called, and uThermal is able to tie it up. We are going to Game 5.
Like, I feel as though he's been playing a lot of different styles against the mech, and maybe it really is, once again, time to change that up and to keep it interesting as we go into this 5th game. Let's see how it's going to go. We kick started to the bottom right-hand side as we do have our blue Zerg player. He has been on match point once already now. This is his second chance, his final chance. It's Serral.
And his opponent up to the top left. He has clawed his way back in the series and has tied it up. This is uThermal.
Yeah, what a way to take these games. Like when he wins, he looks unstoppable, and it's kind of funny because it looks the same all weekend. Like when he wins, he looks unstoppable. Like no one can beat this guy. And then some games he's just like he just loses. Like and he just doesn't even it doesn't get close. It looks one-sided. So he either wins heavily or he loses heavily. It's a real kind of like roller coaster. Being a uThermal fan, it seems, as he's back to the CC first. This time, the hatchery first from Serral will not be the thing to kill him instantly because of the CC.
uThermal brave in game number 5, not scared about a cheese. He's read Serral very well, says this guy is not going to cheese me. He's not going to get aggressive on this map, not this time around. So uThermal going to be off to a good start. And looking across the table at Serral, he definitely, he's been the talk of the entire tournament, where everybody is saying, wow, this guy is sick good. He's #1 on the ladder on EU, and he's, defeating everybody in ZVZ, ZVT, any matchup. And then all of a sudden, he goes up against Showtime, goes down 0-2, and then he meets another really hard, strong opponent, and this is uThermal, and now it's down to game 5. Like, he seems to be the best player in the tournament, but he's not taking these very dominating victories like we saw out of the tournament favorite Nerchio last year, where Nerchio was just flying through the competition, taking 3-0s until his eventual ZVZ against Elaser in the finals. So Serral not looking too dominant. We'll see if he can squeak his victory out here, though, to make it into the semifinals.
It's kind of funny because when the bracket got released for this event for the playoffs, everyone was like, oh man, poor uThermal wins this group and he gets Serral in round 2. And, not a single person was saying, man, poor Serral, he gets Showtime in his initial group and then he has to play uThermal now. So uThermal, it would be, he was definitely like the slight underdog going into this, and now he's brought it to game 5. Can he close it out in Ascension? I mean, again, we're expecting Mech. Now that's interesting. This is the first time I think we're seeing Serral build the pneumatized carapace in this series. We talked about it a couple of times, especially on that Neon Violet Square, where he didn't have it to scout the Fusion Core, perhaps. And so now he builds it. It is just some kind of maybe potential like Queen drop all in. I mean, you got to start thinking about those things when he suddenly adds this into his build order in game 5 of the matchup.
Yeah, I think I saw him making some drop overlords in game number 4. It just never, he never had time to like
really did anything with them,
abuse
right?
it.
They were like just flying with his army. He was about to use them, and then he realized that uThermal's army was on the south side, and then uThermal just didn't give him a second's break after that. So
yeah. So maybe in this map, I mean, you do have that main that can be dropped from the right side, of course. It just takes a while to run all of your units up to that main and try to get that drop in. But it's definitely a good way to draw your opponent's attention into the main as you attack the 3rd or the 4th. And it's especially effective against Mech because their composition is usually very immobile. It's hard to move around and get back and defend. So here we go again. It is going to be Cloak, but this time there is a Liberator coming out first.
A little bit of a mind game there, starting up the Cloak to fake Serral out, perhaps. uThermal actually hasn't really gone for a Liberator in terms of, in the games where, obviously he went for the Liberators in the Liberator range game. But he hasn't just gone for like a normal Liberator harass riff, as we see a 4-minute lair from Serral. That's pretty swift as well. Like, this is sort of like a ZVP build when he goes into the 4-minute lair. And, I mean, a Bane that's coming down from Serral too. I mean, it doesn't mean, it's kind of like, well, it's not Nidus, but then what is it going to be? I don't know. This is interesting. Just a very fast Hydra Den coming on up here. Is he going to rush out Mutas or something? Some Lings are going to find the 3rd base building it in location already. uThermal repositions the Liberator to try and hide it, but the Overlord will see it as it moves on up towards the upper left side. We are going to be seeing those Zerglings. Getting roasted a little bit. 3rd CC, though, is protected for now. And it is going to be the Banshee behind it, so you will still commit to that Cloak. You will let it finish.
And it's, you know, it's going to be the talk of this game, this very fast lair. You know, what is he going to do with it? I think we just need to wait and see, because after all, it could just be, you know, fast lair wants to make sure that he gets an overseer out, wants to make sure that he's not dying to any cloak or anything like that. But outside of that, he's very well prepared. And you can see on the production tab, he makes a bunch of lings and some banelings already. Is this just overly safe from Serral, or is he going to get aggressive? He's up to 51 workers, and he's going to make a bunch more. So we'll go above 60, but the Hydroden already coming down.
Yeah, Hydroden coming on up. You mentioned the Banes, I guess maybe just afraid of a Hellbat attack or so. I mean, he hasn't really seen he's seen everything, but, you know, when there is Hellions being produced, obviously the Hellbats are something you've got to be cautious of. 2 extra barracks coming down from factories coming down from uThermal here. Set up towards those double 4s. As 2 tech labs are ready to greet those factories as they finish. Obviously, the reactor on the starport as well allows him to go into the double medevac to start dropping those around, as we've seen game after game here by our Terran player. Cloak Banshee will head in towards the third base. There's actually no detection here just yet. He picks off a Baneling, but get onto those drones because where's the closest overseer? It's morphing in, I believe. No detection at all. uThermal going to get himself 4 workers from the get-go, and obviously from here it just gets a bit better. Maybe he picks off another couple of Banes. Actually, the drones come back in, so he'll get 1 or 2 more of these. That's 6, that's 7. Finally, the overseer, and uThermal will just suicide the Banshee for 1 more.
Unbelievable. You never expect that kind of damage, and he was preparing for it, right? He had spores and all this good stuff. You know, he had the early lair, but there was no overseer because the timing was a little bit later than normal, right? Because he made that liberator first, and the Banshee also came in at a weird angle. He didn't go into the main where there was 2 queens and a spore. He went straight for the third base where Serral was not ready. So a nice bit of harassment damage, and he's definitely going to follow this up with that Thor drop we've been seeing all the time, as well as this Hellion harassment. A pretty good start here for our Terran player.
I wonder if the little bit of damage that he's done, realizing there's Ling Bane already on the map too, I wonder if he says, right, let's take the Hellions and actually use them with the 4s this time to maybe push the 4th base. Again, it's something we saw to Muslim really kind of favoring doing against players like Lambo throughout this event already. Something which uThermal could go for. We'll see which direction the 4s go in. They are going to go right. So they are going to come to the 4th, and that's where the Hellions are. I mean, it's a powerful attack. You hit this 4th with like Hellbats and 4s at the moment, and you know what really is there right here from the Zerg player? There's Hydras, there's Banes. Okay, there's a fair amount, but even if you just trade out Hellbats for like a few, you know, Hydras, and you also get some Lings at the same time and Banes, and just forcing units, you know, that turns out quite well. Hellbats are very expendable units here in the mech army, as that Liberator will move into position on the main base at the same time. Spore Crawler already relocating though, and the Queen going to get out of range before it gets picked off.
Yeah, it's pretty good handling of that. And he also gets right on top of those medevacs who are already pretty low. And look at the Banelings just rolling on in. And the Hydra's going to absolutely clean that up. Not the cleanest attack we've seen from uThermal. And he's even going to leave a Thor on the ground. Looks like perhaps the other medevac died in the process.
Yeah,
that is not the attack you wanted right now.
No, that really wasn't. The medevac you mentioned got target fired down very nicely by Serral. He went down instantly with so many Hydras in range. And look what Serral realizes. He's just like, oh, you lost units for once. Well, guess what? You've been doing this to me every game you've won. Look what I can do. I also can come across the map and counterattack. Bane start morphing in his Ling Bane Hydra rather than that Roach Hydra here. uThermal is going to try and set up depots to kind of help Sim City the tanks, which he does have in the back. Hellions are pulling back too. Bane's starting to roll forwards. Another tank will siege. But there's so many Hydras for uThermal to deal with as he's already losing a lot of SCVs. Man, he's got a lot of Hellions kept alive though. 12 workers going down. These tanks on the high ground starting to put in work. uThermal might just be about to hold on to this, but this was very crazy. Like, this was not easy for him to do at all.
Yeah, he puts on a really great hold. The 2 tanks on the high ground were absolutely crucial. But Serral, he's totally fine to take that trade, right? He took out a bunch of those units already. The Hellions in the front, a Thor, and now he's going to begin pulling uThermal apart. He is running away with this game, and I'm not sure that uThermal is going to be ready to stop this drop into the main. That is a bunch of units going in right now. And the second that uThermal responds to that drop, he's going to continue pushing in the mid part of this map if he can. Looks like he has been pushed back for now, but here comes that drop.
Oh yeah, this is going to be really difficult to deal with because he has to completely reposition. His production is just going to start going down. I mean, it's all repercussions of losing the fight on the right side initially. Yes, he might be able to hold on the initial time, but he lost a little bit, and it just gives Serral the momentum, the map control, and it just gives him the chance to clean up like this. We're going to see, whoa, that's a roasting of Hydras, though. These Hellions are going huge, and okay, the Hellions might get cleaned out. That was a lot of Hydras that went down here, and the Vikings survive and will still pick away at these Overlords as well. I mean, uThermal cleaned up. At the same time, now his third CC once again. And even if he tries to lift it here, it's going to get targeted by the Hydras because they can shoot up. And Serral is starting to break on through uThermal. Our last Terran hope of this event is starting to be in a lot of trouble as the Zergs from Europe once again just continue to be absolutely commanding in European tournaments. And if Serral wins this one, Showtime's the only non-Zerg hope left.
Yep, GG.